Hello, economic students. Welcome to today's lecture. We're looking at the market structures, the introduction to market structures. That's A-level economics topic for today. So we want to look at a very important aspect of market structures, looking at the definitions of market structures and also looking at what is a market structure. And lastly, looking at why market structures are important. Why do we study market structures? So let's begin. So what is a market? A market is any arrangement where buyers and sellers interact to exchange goods and services. So they're either exchanging goods or services. That's what we call a market, where the buyers and the sellers meet to exchange goods and services. Then we have examples of markets that we can talk about. We have a vegetable market. We have a supermarket where we go and buy our groceries. And also have a stock market where we deal with the buying and selling of shares. This is the market of the buying and selling of shares. Then we have the online market like the Amazon and the Alibaba, where we buy goods online and also you can get even services online. That's an online market. So let's look at what is a market structure. So a market structure is refers to a characteristics of a market that influence the behavior of firms and consumers. So we're looking at the behavior of firms and consumers that constitute to having what we call market structures. So we're looking at the characteristics and how are they going to behave in the market, the buyers and the sellers, and also looking at the firms and the customers. How are they interacting with each other? That tells us about what a market structure is all about. Then we have to look at how is it determined. It is determined by the number of firms. So usually when you look at market structures, the number of firms is very important because it's going to tell us what type of market structure are we dealing with. If we're going to have many buyers and sellers, if we're going to have few buyers and sellers, it's going to also tell us about their interaction, their behavior, how they're going to be behaving. Then also look at the nature of the products. Are they producing goods which are slightly differentiated or are they homogeneous? This is some of the things that we have to look at. Then we look at the barriers to entry. Are they higher barriers or lower barriers to entry in this market structure that is going to be constituting the firm and the consumers, whereby we are looking at the firm themselves, the capital contribution, and what are they going to do in order for them to survive in the market. Then we go to degree of competition. How are they competing? If there's higher competition, we're likely going to have lower prices. If there's less competition, we're actually going to have higher prices, because remember, competition is there's more competition, high quality goods are produced, then usually there is lower prices. But when there's less competition, lower quality goods are produced, then there's higher prices, as you know, in economics, right? Then we look at control over prices. Are they price makers or are they price takers? We have to look at that behavior. How is it being influenced by these market structures, right? Then let's look at the last slot where we look at why market structures are important. Why do we study market structures in the first place? So the first thing is that we're looking at how prices are determined. Like you have said, is it determined by the force of demand and supply? Are they price makers or are they price takers? Then we look at how firms make decisions. How are they going to be making decisions? It is based on the type of goods that they are producing, also how they have access to the factors of production that they're going to be using to produce. Then the level of competition. Usually we have to look at competition, that if there is higher level of competition, like I said, the degree of competition determines what type of market structure are we dealing with and what are we supposed to do as a consumer, and also how firms are going to respond to those market changes. Then looking at also the consumer welfare, we have certain market structures that focus on how are they going to look at the welfare of people, the welfare of the consumers, so that they can have availability of goods and services to improve what to call consumer sovereignty. Then lastly, we look at business behavior. How are they going to behave when you look at the market conditions? When you look at the market forces of demand and supply, how are they going to be able to compete? So this is the introduction to market structure for you, where we look at what is the market and what is the market structure and why do we study market structures. So on our next video, we're going to be looking at the various types of market structures and some of the advantages and disadvantages of different market structures as we go into this playlist. This is Introduction to Economics, market structures, looking at A-level economics. Thank you.